Admiral Jack Morrison stood motionless on the bridge of the TES Humanity's Pride, his weathered hands clasped behind his back as he watched the Galactic Council's emergency broadcast. The massive holographic display showed the council chamber in all its gaudy glory. Sweeping crystalline arches, gravity-defying fountains, and hundreds of alien representatives arranged in their carefully designated hierarchical tiers. The human section, as always, was in the bottom ring, right next to the Methane Brothers and the silicon-based life forms. Order. Order in the chamber. High Counselor Zixtal's translator squealed, their iridescent tentacles rippling with what Morrison recognized as smugness. After 15 years commanding humanity's primitive fleet, he'd gotten good at reading alien body language. The motion to enact the Deathworlder Containment Act has passed with an overwhelming majority. Laughter rippled through the chamber's upper tiers. A Varaxian noble, all 6 eyes gleaming with amusement, leaned forward in their gravity chair. Perhaps now our human friends will finally understand their proper place in the galactic community. Morrison's jaw tightened, but his expression remained neutral. Around him, his bridge crew maintained their practiced facade of barely contained anger, the exact reaction the Council would expect from primitive emotional Deathworlders. None of them showed the cold calculation that had defined humanity's centuries-long masquerade. The terms are non-negotiable, Zixtal continued, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. All human expansion must cease immediately. Existing colonies beyond the designated 12 systems must be evacuated within 1 standard solar cycle. Any violation will result in immediate military response. Lieutenant Sarah Hayes, his communications officer, glanced up from her outdated console. "Sir, we're receiving updates from our diplomatic court. The Council's already moving to seize our outer colony assets." "Right on schedule," Morrison murmured. He traced the old Earth Force tattoo on his neck, a habit he'd developed during humanity's first contact war. "Send the authorization codes to all fleet commanders. Protocol designation. Enough is enough." Hayes's fingers danced across her holographic interface, technology the Council thought humans were decades from developing. Authentication code sent, sir. The lion's done playing with mice. Around the bridge, other officers initiated their own carefully prepared sequences. Lieutenant Commander Rodriguez, officially listed as a navigation assistant, activated quantum-encrypted channels that would reach every human vessel in the galaxy. Chief Engineer Thompson, whom the Council had dismissed as barely able to maintain their primitive fusion drives, began the process of disengaging the magnetic locks holding their advanced weapon systems in massed configurations. "Sir," Hayes called out, her voice tight with anticipation, "we're receiving confirmation signals. All fleet elements report ready. Operation Ghost Protocol is green across all sectors." Morrison nodded, allowing himself a small smile as he watched the Council chamber erupt in self-congratulatory celebration. 3 centuries of being underestimated, of playing the role of the barely civilized Deathworlders, had led to this moment. Every human ship in space was about to reveal its true nature. Every tourist would shed their cover as Special Forces operators. Every primitive AI would unleash centuries of accumulated access codes and backdoors. "Send my personal authorization," Morrison ordered, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of human patience. "Message begins. The galaxy gave us 12 systems. Let's show them why that was their last mistake." As the command transmitted, Morrison watched the Council's celebrations continue. In less than an hour, their smug satisfaction would turn to terror. But for now, he savored these final moments of peace, knowing they marked the end of humanity's long charade. "May God have mercy on their souls," he whispered, "because humanity's done being nice." The first sign that something was wrong came from an unlikely source. A janitor's cleaning drone on Centauri Prime. The simple machine, supposedly incapable of anything beyond basic maintenance, suddenly accessed the central security mainframe with Council administrator credentials. By the time anyone noticed, it was far too late. "Status report. Morrison commanded, watching as streams of data cascaded across the bridge's holographic displays. Each feed showed another council world discovering what humanity had quietly done during their centuries of technological inferiority. Sir, quantum infiltration success rate at 98.2%, Rodriguez reported, his fingers dancing across his now unrestricted console. Our sleeper AIs are emerging exactly as planned. The council's discovering that every human-built computer they dismissed as quaint was a digital Trojan horse. Security footage from across council space told the story. On New Venus, a human tourist couple, actually Navy SEALs, calmly walked into a restricted military facility as its unbreakable security systems welcomed them as highest-level administrators. On Europa Station, the Council's premier research facility, decades of classified weapons research began downloading to human servers through backdoors planted by incompetent human maintenance crews. Sir, Hayes's voice carried an edge of excitement. The Council's emergency defense network just tried to activate. Tried being the operative word. Morrison allowed himself a grim smile. Let me guess. They're discovering that their backdoors have backdoors. Yes, sir. Their activation codes are being bounced through so many recursive loops that their own systems are treating them as cyber attacks. Hayes paused, suppressing a laugh. They're literally locked out of their own network by their own security protocols. The massive display showed chaos erupting across council space. Defensive platforms turned dormant, their targeting systems convinced they were in maintenance mode. Automated custom ships drifted powerless, their engines shut down by safety protocols triggered by phantom radiation leaks. Space traffic control networks suddenly started broadcasting ancient human entertainment, specifically chosen clips about rebellion against oppressive regimes. Sir, Rodriguez called out, Council Military Command is trying to coordinate a response, but every time they issue an order, their primitive human-built translation software is rendering it as, well, you should see for yourself. Morrison watched as a council admiral's urgent combat orders were translated to their fleet as recipes for something called Earth chocolate chip cookies. Another desperate command became lyrics to Never Gonna Give You Up. Did we seriously rickroll the council's military command? Morrison asked, unable to hide his amusement. Yes, sir. Lieutenant Chen's idea. She said if we're revealing ourselves, we might as well have some fun with it. The bridge crew's practiced restraint began to crack as 3 centuries of forced humility gave way to well-earned satisfaction. Every human in space had played a part in this deception, pretending to barely understand technologies they had surpassed generations ago, acting grateful for advanced alien computers that wouldn't have impressed their grandparents. Sir, Hayes interrupted, her voice suddenly serious. The Council's Third Fleet is mobilizing. Looks like they're defaulting to manual control. No automation, no computers. They're trying to fight blind. Morrison nodded. This was expected. The Council would fall back on brute force when their technological advantage failed. They still thought they were dealing with primitive Deathworlders who'd simply gotten lucky with a cyber attack. Well then, Morrison straightened his uniform. I believe it's time for Phase 2. Send the signal to all ships. Disengage magnetic camouflage. Let's show them what those decorative hull plates were hiding. Around the humanity's pride, panels of armor began to fall away, revealing sleek weapon systems and propulsion technology that humanity had masked as structural reinforcement. Similar transformations happened across human space as centuries of hidden advancement revealed itself at once. Sir, Hayes reported, unable to keep the pride from her voice. All ships report ready. The Council's Third Fleet will be in weapons range in 5 minutes. Morrison's hand went to his neck tattoo one last time. Send to all ships. The lion's done hiding. Let's show them what apex predators can really do. The Council's Third Fleet emerged from FTL in perfect attack formation, 200 ships strong, their golden hulls gleaming in the starlight. Their arrival was meant to inspire awe. Instead, Admiral Morrison found himself thinking of butterflies flying into a spider's web. Council vessels holding at extreme weapons range, Lieutenant Hayes reported. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Let's hear their final warning, Morrison said, settling into his command chair. The holographic display flickered to life, showing Admiral Kextil of the Third Fleet. Like most Arcturians, his crystalline exoskeleton sparkled with barely contained energy, a sign of either excitement or fear. Attention, human vessels. Your cyber attacks constitute an act of war. Power down your ships and prepare to be boarded, or we will be forced to. Morrison cut the feed with a casual wave. Send our response. Visual only. The bridge crew fought to hide their grins as humanity's carefully orchestrated reveal began. Across the battlefield, panels of decorative hull plating detached from human ships, each piece precisely engineered to mask the technology beneath. The Council fleet watched in stunned silence as what they'd dismissed as primitive vessels transformed before their eyes. All ships report weapons hot, Rodriguez announced. Quantum targeting arrays online. Ghost Tech stealth systems disengage. The humanity's pride shrugged off its own disguise. Artificial gravity generators, no longer constrained to match current human technology, ramped to full power. The bridge crew felt the familiar sensation of true military-grade inertial dampeners replacing the clumsy civilian versions they'd endured for show. Council fleet is scanning us, Hayes reported, her voice colored with satisfaction. Their energy readings just spiked. I think someone's getting nervous. Sir, Rodriguez called out. They're targeting the civilian colony behind us. Weapon signatures suggest they're planning to glass the surface. Morrison's expression hardened. Typical. When faced with superior forces, the Council always targets civilians first. He stood, straightening his uniform. Lieutenant Hayes, broadcast on all frequencies. Let's educate our friends about the consequences of threatening human civilians. The Council fleet's first volley, enough firepower to reduce a continent to ash, met the previously hidden outer layer of human point defense. Quantum-guided interceptors, masked for centuries as survey buoys and navigation markers, swatted the incoming fire from space with contemptuous ease. Multiple Council vessels powering up their Alcubierre drives, Rodriguez reported. They're attempting to retreat. Oh, I don't think so. Morrison's voice carried the weight of centuries of waiting. Execute containment protocol. Show them why humans haven't needed those drives in decades. Space itself seemed to shiver as hidden quantum arrays activated, creating a localized disruption field that made FTL travel impossible. The Council fleet, trapped in normal space, faced the full revelation of human military technology. Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Kextil, Hayes announced. He's offering immediate surrender. Morrison allowed himself a small smile. Put him through. The Arcturian admiral appeared again, his crystalline form clouded with fear. How long have you had this level of technology? Long enough to know you'd try to glass our civilians, Morrison replied coldly. Long enough to watch you suppress other species. Long enough to realize the galaxy needed a change. He leaned forward. Here's what happens next. Your fleet will power down. Your crews will be treated well. And you'll watch as humanity helps fix everything your Council broke. The Council will never allow. The Council's opinion stopped mattering about 10 minutes ago, Morrison interrupted. You gave us 12 systems and expected us to stay there. Instead, we're giving you a choice. Help us build a better galaxy or get out of our way. As the Council fleet began their surrender protocols, Morrison turned to his crew. Send word to all ships. Phase 3 begins now. Let's show the galaxy what humanity can really do when we stop playing nice. The message went out, and across human space, centuries of hidden advancement emerged at once. The galaxy was about to learn why you never corner an apex predator, especially one that had been planning this moment for generations. As the Third Fleet's surrender was being processed, Morrison initiated humanity's most devastating weapon, the truth. Lieutenant Hayes, commence Operation Looking Glass. Let's show the galaxy what their precious council has been hiding. Across thousands of worlds, every quantum-linked device, entertainment screen, and data terminal suddenly activated. The Council's emergency override protocols, designed to prevent exactly this kind of mass broadcast, had been quietly rewritten by human programmers decades ago. First wave of data going live now, sir, Hayes reported, her fingers dancing across her console. Starting with the genetic experimentation files. The galaxy watched in horror as classified footage played simultaneously on billions of screens. Clinical laboratories filled with imprisoned lesser species, failed evolutionary acceleration experiments, banned genetic modifications tested on unwitting populations. Each video came with corresponding data, dates, locations, authorization codes, all authenticated by the Council's own security protocols. Sir, Rodriguez interrupted, we're getting massive spikes in civil unrest across Council space. The Nexani are rioting on 6 worlds. The Predaxi have stormed their planetary governor's palace. Morrison nodded grimly. Release the technological suppression archives next. Let them see exactly how the Council maintained their superiority. New data flooded the networks. Classified reports detailing how promising civilizations had their development artificially stunted. Evidence of sabotaged first contact missions. Proof that countless species had been denied advanced medical treatment to keep them dependent on Council authority. Incoming transmission from the Council chamber, Hayes announced. They're demanding we cease transmission immediately or face. She paused, laughing despite herself. Or face sanctions under the Deathworlder Containment Act. Still playing by the old rules, Morrison shook his head. Show them our response. Release the corruption files. The next wave hit like a quantum torpedo. Financial records showing Council members accepting bribes to delay medical aid during planetary disasters. Secret accounts filled with profits from artificially inflated tariffs. Evidence of Council representatives deliberately engineering conflicts to sell weapons to both sides. Sir, Rodriguez's voice carried an edge of excitement. Multiple Council member species are withdrawing from the Confederation. The Tellarians just declared their independence. The Vox Collective is demanding immediate elections. The bridge crew watched as centuries of carefully maintained Council authority crumbled in real time. Species that had been purposefully kept at each other's throats were suddenly united in their fury at their common oppressor. Incoming emergency transmission from High Counselor Zixtal, Hayes reported. Authentication codes mark it as highest priority. Morrison settled back in his command chair. Put it through. Let's hear what they have to say now. The holographic display showed the High Counselor's chamber in chaos. Documents floated everywhere as staff frantically tried to destroy evidence. Zixtal's tentacles writhed with barely controlled panic. Stop this transmission immediately, the High Counselor demanded. You have no idea what you're doing. The galaxy requires order, structure. Without the Council's guidance, it will descend into chaos. No, Morrison replied calmly. What you call chaos, we call freedom. What you call guidance, we call oppression. Humanity spent centuries watching you play your games, gathering evidence, and preparing for this moment. He leaned forward. We're not destroying order, High Counselor. We're introducing justice. Release the final archive, he commanded Hayes. Show them what real leadership looks like. The last wave of data contained humanity's masterstroke, detailed plans for galactic reformation, free medical care for all species, open technological exchange, democratic representation, programs to help uplifted species achieve independence. Everything the Council should have been doing all along. Sir, Hayes reported, her voice soft with pride. We're receiving requests for assistance from over 300 worlds. They're asking for human aid in establishing new governments. Morrison stood, watching the galaxy reshape itself on the tactical display. The Council had given humanity 12 systems, thinking they could contain what they didn't understand. Instead, They'd given humanity all the time needed to plan their own obsolescence. Send to all human ships, he ordered. Phase 4 begins now. Let's show them why Earth's greatest export was never our technology. It was our desire for justice. The Council's response to total systemic collapse was precisely what humanity had predicted: blind, desperate violence. Morrison watched as emergency alerts flooded his tactical display. "Sir," Hayes called out, her voice tight with controlled anger, "Council loyalist forces are targeting human civilian populations across all sectors. They're starting with the children's habitats." The bridge fell silent. Even after centuries of watching the Council's corruption, this crossed a line. Morrison's hand clenched on his armrest, knuckles white with barely contained fury. "Confirm locations of all civilian targets," he ordered, his voice deadly calm. "And send to all ships. Execute Operation Archangel. No more holding back." The response was immediate. Across Council space, previously invisible human defense platforms shimmered into existence. What the Council had dismissed as space debris, abandoned satellites, and derelict stations suddenly revealed their true nature. "Sir, the Loyalist fleet approaching New Eden Colony has fired their first salvo," Rodriguez reported. "Kinetic weapons, heavy yield. Impact in 40 seconds. Morrison allowed himself a cold smile. "Show them why you don't threaten human children." The kinetic weapons, city-killing projectiles moving at relativistic speeds, suddenly found themselves bathed in quantum fields. Their trajectory loops curved impossibly, sending them right back toward their points of origin. The Council ships had just enough time to realize their mistake before their own weapons tore through their hulls. "Multiple Council worlds are launching their planetary defense platforms," Hayes announced. "They're targeting human civilian installations in the outer colonies." "Deploy the Ghost Fleet," Morrison commanded. "Let's show them what we've been hiding in dark space." Suddenly, the supposedly empty regions between stars lit up with engine signatures. Thousands of advanced human warships dropped their century-long stealth protocols. The Council's tactical displays must have looked like the gates of hell opening. Morrison almost wished he could see their faces. "Sir," Rodriguez's voice carried a note of satisfaction. "Council forces attempting to glass New Montana, requesting permission to demonstrate our point defense capabilities." "Permission granted. Show them why humans perfect defensive technology before offensive." The Council ships fired their planet-killer weapons, massive energy beams designed to burn through atmospheric shields and boil oceans. They struck the human colony's defenses and simply disappeared. "Quantum sync shields holding at 99.9%, Rodriguez reported. "Their energy weapons are literally being transformed into computational power for our defense grid. The more they fire, the stronger our shields become." Council communications channels erupted with panic as they realized the full scope of their situation. Humanity hadn't just been hiding their technology. They'd developed countermeasures to weapons that weren't even supposed to exist. "Sir," Hayes interrupted, "incoming transmission from the High Council's security chief. They're activating the Omega Protocol." Morrison's expression darkened. The Omega Protocol, the Council's doomsday weapon. Designed to induce artificial supernovas, it was their ultimate insurance policy against rebellion. "They're actually going to try it," he said, almost sadly. "Lieutenant Hayes, send to all ships. Operation Looking Glass. Final phase. Show them what happens when you try to bluff a species that perfected poker." As the Council's doomsday weapons powered up across their space, human quantum computers executed their final reveal. Every Omega device simultaneously received what appeared to be a standard Council authentication code. Then, one by one, they shut down. "Sir," Hayes reported, unable to hide her grin, playing the Council's reaction on main screen. The tactical display showed the Council's weapon control center. Operators frantically tried to reactivate their superweapons, only to be met with a simple message: access denied. Countermeasures patented by Human Scientific Division 50 years ago. Have a nice day. Send our response to all Council frequencies. Morrison ordered. Message begins. You threatened our children. You tried to destroy our worlds. You pulled out your ultimate weapon. And we'd already broken it. Want to see what our ultimate weapon looks like? The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their strength. It was their capacity for ruthless, methodical, patient preparation. And they'd had centuries to prepare for this exact moment. The Council's supreme military command gathered in their supposedly impregnable fortress beneath the surface of their throne world. They had one final card to play, a weapon so secret that even most council members didn't know it existed. "Sir," Hayes reported, her tone almost pitying, "they're accessing their quantum vault. Looks like they're going for the necrophage weapon system." Morrison actually laughed. "Right on schedule. Rodriguez, show them what we found in their vault 80 years ago." The council commanders watched in horror as their classified screens displayed a simple message. "Dear Council Leadership, we found your bioweapon in 2184. We cured it in 2185. We left this note in 2186. Yours truly, Humanity." "Incoming transmission from Supreme Commander Vex Thor," Hayes announced. Well, sir, they're having what appears to be a complete psychological breakdown." The holographic display showed the Council's military leader, all four arms trembling, his ceremonial armor askew. "Impossible. The vault has never been breached. Our security was designed by the same people who thought humans were stuck with fusion drives." Morrison interrupted. "Would you like to know what else we found in there?" "Lieutenant Hayes, please educate our friends." Every screen in council space lit up with classified files, dated decades ago, showing human quantum infiltrators casually browsing the council's most secure facility. The footage showed them cataloging weapons, developing countermeasures, and occasionally leaving coffee cups just to mess with the cleaning staff. "Sir," Rodriguez called out, "multiple council destroyer groups are making their final stand. They're ramming their ships into quantum singularities to power some kind of superweapon." Morrison nodded. Yes, the gravity cascade device. We were wondering when they'd try that." He turned to Hayes. "Show them why you don't try to weaponize physics against a species that mapped the quantum realm centuries ago." The council ships disappeared into artificial black holes of their own making, only to re-emerge seconds later through quantum tunnels, their weapons harmlessly discharged into empty space. They'd just tried to trigger a weapon capable of destroying solar systems, and humanity had turned it into a fancy light show. "Message from High Command," Hayes reported. They're asking how long we've been able to do that." "Tell them the truth," Morrison said, standing from his command chair. "Tell them humanity mastered quantum tunneling back when they were still calling us primitive apes. Tell them every time they developed a superweapon, we spent years finding ways to counter it. Tell them that while they were busy playing politics, we were preparing for war." The display showed council forces across the galaxy laying down arms. Their ultimate weapons had failed. Their secret technologies had been countered before they even used them. Their most secure facilities had been compromised for generations. "Sir," Rodriguez interrupted, "we're detecting quantum fluctuations from their central command. They're trying to activate something we haven't seen before." Morrison's expression hardened. "No, Lieutenant. We've seen it. We just didn't want them to know we had." He turned to Hayes. "Send the shutdown codes we found carved into the quantum fabric of their weapon testing dimension. Authorization. Humanity's lost children." Across council space, reality itself seemed to hiccup. Whatever they'd tried to activate died before it could even fully form. The quantum fabric of space-time rippled once, then settled back to normal. What are you?" Supreme Commander Vex Thor's voice shook with fear. Morrison's reply was cold and precise. "We are what you made us. When you found us, we were reaching for the stars with hope and optimism. You taught us to be paranoid. You taught us to hide our strength. You taught us to trust no one but ourselves." He paused, letting the words sink in. Congratulations on creating your own worst nightmare. The Council's last-ditch weapon had failed. Their secret technologies had been compromised. Their power was broken, and humanity was done playing nice. Send to all ships, Morrison commanded. Phase 7 begins now. Let's show them why Earth's greatest warriors were always our teachers, our doctors, and our builders. It's time to help them learn from their mistakes. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for humanity's revenge. They expected orbital bombardments, mass arrests, the same iron-fisted rule they'd lived under for centuries. Instead, they watched in stunned silence as human ships across Council space began broadcasting on all frequencies. Medical assistance available at these coordinates. The messages declared, no questions asked. All species welcome. This is not a trap. Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display as thousands of human vessels revealed their true purpose. What the Council had dismissed as cargo ships and maintenance vessels transformed into state-of-the-art hospital ships and emergency response centers. Sir, Hayes reported, her voice soft with pride. We're receiving distress calls from over 2,000 worlds. Many of them are Council loyalist planets. Help them all, Morrison ordered, especially our enemies. Let's show them what humanity's really made of. The response was immediate and overwhelming. On plague-ravaged worlds that the Council had quarantined, human medical teams deployed with cures developed decades ago. On worlds struggling with resource shortages, hidden human replication technology provided immediate relief. Every crisis the Council had used to maintain control suddenly found itself confronted with solutions humanity had been preparing for generations. Sir, Rodriguez called out, Council propaganda networks are trying to claim this is some kind of trick. They're telling people not to trust human aid. Morrison smiled. Show them the footage from New Eden Colony. Let them see what happens when humans actually help. The broadcast showed human medical teams working alongside former Council doctors, sharing centuries of hidden medical knowledge. It showed human engineers teaching local workers how to operate advanced recycling systems that could end resource shortages overnight. But most importantly, it showed the results. Children of all species playing together in parks that had been radiation zones just hours before. Message from the Arcturian refugees, Sir, Hayes announced. They're asking why we're helping them after they tried to glass our colonies. Put them through, Morrison ordered, straightening his uniform. The holographic display showed an Arcturian elder, his crystalline form clouded with confusion. We don't understand. We were your enemies. We tried to kill your people. Why would you help us? Morrison's response was firm but gentle, because that's what humans do. We fight like devils when we have to, but we heal like angels when we can. Your leaders try to kill us, but your people, they were just following orders. We've spent centuries preparing not just to win this war, but to help rebuild afterward. The tactical display showed the impact of human aid spreading across the galaxy like a benevolent virus. Worlds that had been at each other's throats for centuries found themselves working together, united by human assistance and technology. Sir, Rodriguez reported, we're getting unusual readings from the Council's former biological weapons facilities. They're trying to release something. Morrison nodded grimly. Deploy the cleanup teams. Show them what humanity's environmental restoration technology can really do. What had been intended as a last-spite biological attack transformed into a demonstration of human environmental mastery. Quantum-guided nanites consumed the biological weapons, converting them into fertile soil. Wastelands bloomed. Dead zones sprang to life. Message from High Counselor Zixtal, Hayes announced. They're asking for asylum and offering a full confession of Council crimes. Granted, Morrison replied immediately. But make sure they understand. They'll be treated well, but they will face justice. Real justice, not Council justice. The bridge crew watched as centuries of carefully hidden human advancement continued to deploy across the galaxy. Every crisis the Council had manufactured to maintain control found itself confronted with solutions humanity had spent generations perfecting. "Sir," Hayes said quietly, "incoming message from Earth. They're asking if we need anything else from the hidden archives." Morrison looked at the tactical display, watching as green icons of successful aid missions spread across former Council space. "Tell them no. Tell them humanity's done hiding. It's time to show the galaxy what we can really do when we're trying to help instead of trying to survive." The galaxy was learning that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology or their strength. It was their capacity for mercy after victory. 1 year after the day that became known as the Deathworlders Revolution, Admiral Jack Morrison stood before the newly formed Galactic Assembly. The chamber, designed with input from all species, bore little resemblance to the hierarchical council chamber it replaced. Here, every representative sat at the same level, their seats arranged in a perfect circle. "The final reports are in," Morrison addressed the assembly, his voice carrying across the chamber. "The last of the Council's hidden weapon caches has been converted into medical facilities. The quantum reformation of their biological warfare planets into garden worlds is complete. And as of this morning, the last refugee camp has been closed, because everyone finally has a home." He paused, looking around at faces that a year ago had viewed humanity with contempt or fear. Now he saw something different. Respect, not born from terror of human military might, but from gratitude for human compassion. "Sir," Lieutenant Hayes whispered from behind him, "incoming transmission from New Eden Colony. They're ready for the ceremony." The massive holographic display activated, showing scenes from across the galaxy. On worlds that had been bitter enemies under Council rule, children of different species played together in parks built with human terraforming technology. Former Council weapons researchers worked alongside human scientists, using their skills to cure diseases instead of creating them. "When we revealed ourselves a year ago," Morrison continued, "many expected us to simply replace the Council, to become the new tyrants. Instead, we showed the galaxy something it had forgotten. True strength isn't about having the biggest weapons or the most advanced technology. It's about having the wisdom to know when not to use them." The display shifted to show the New Eden Colony, where something remarkable was happening. The children's habitat, targeted by Council loyalists a year ago, was hosting an interspecies cultural exchange. Young Arcturians, their crystalline forms sparkling with excitement, taught human children their traditional songs. Human teachers helped young Vox understand Earth's history, while Tellarian elders shared their ancient wisdom with anyone who would listen. "Humanity spent centuries preparing for war," Morrison acknowledged. "But we spent even more time preparing for peace. While we developed weapons to counter the Council's aggression, we also developed cures for their bioweapons. While we created shields to stop their planet killers, we also created technologies to heal their damaged worlds." "Sir," Rodriguez called quietly from his station, "the quantum core is ready. They're waiting for your signal." Morrison nodded, then addressed the assembly again. "Today, we take the final step. The quantum core, humanity's greatest achievement, is about to be activated, but not as a weapon, as the Council feared. Instead, it will serve as the foundation of a new galactic network, allowing instantaneous communication and travel between all worlds." The display showed the massive quantum core, housed in what had been the Council's most secure fortress. Once intended to control the galaxy through fear, it would now unite it through cooperation. "The activation codes are prepared," Morrison announced, "but humanity will not activate it alone. Every species here has contributed to this moment. Every child who dreams of the stars has a right to share in this future." Representatives from every species stepped forward, each placing their hand on a quantum-linked activation panel. Morrison watched as former enemies stood side by side, ready to help birth a new era of galactic civilization. "Ready, sir," Hayes reported. All stations show green. Morrison placed his own hand on the central panel. "The Council gave us 12 systems, thinking they could contain what they didn't understand. Instead, they gave us time. Time to prepare not just for war, but for the peace that would follow. They thought they were caging Deathworlders. Instead, they were incubating humanity's greatest gift, the ability to forgive our enemies and help them build a better future. The quantum core activated, and across the galaxy, barriers between worlds disappeared. The age of separation and fear was over. The age of unity and exploration had begun. "Remember this day," Morrison said softly, watching the galaxy transform. Not as the day Deathworlders stopped playing nice, but as the day the galaxy learned why Earth's greatest export was never our weapons, it was our hope.